All right, FightHype.com here with my man, Jacob Stitch Duran. Stitch.
Hanging out, brother. Barbershop talk, man. And
you know how we do.
Thanks for having me here.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, man. The first thing, I can't even speak to you without starting off with Wladimir Klitschko'S announcement this week. Or actually, it was last week. His retirement.
Yeah.
Were you shocked? Did you know?
No, I wasn't shocked. You know, a couple of weeks after the fight, Wladimir called me, and he asked my opinion on what I thought. I gave him two opinions. If you retire now, man, you're gonna go out as you finish the fight as a hero. And the people loved you and all that. And if you go into the next one, I told him, I said, look, if you do it, you got to do it under one condition. It has to be right away or soon, but you have to go in there like it's round 12. And you have to be in the best physical and mental shape that you were going into the fight. If it's anything different than that, I would say don't do it. And I think being with him and Vitaly so long, he has a lot of confidence in what I say. He knows I'm not going to bullshit him or anything like that. But also knowing Wladimir, he always has that what would have, what could have, and what should have. And so either way, I would have took it if I told him. Either way, I'm going to support you 150%, So, am I glad that he retired? Yeah, I am, and would it have been nice to have worked with him one final time? Yeah, that too. But I'm sure I'll see Wladimir again. And Vitaly.
When did you first, you've been with him for a long time now. When did you guys, first kind of hook up?
Ben, it's shit just happens to me, man. In 1991, December the 12th, Vitaly says 1992. But the point is, when the Soviet Union first broke, they had their first professional fights in the Ukraine. So during that time, I trained kickboxers. So I had Mark Longo from Denver. I took him. So we took a team of boxers and kickboxers to fight the Ukrainians in Kiev. And that's when I saw the Klitschko'S for the first time. They were young guys, obviously, but they were already stars. And I met them personally when they came to Las Vegas to start training. And I think Kenny Adams was working with them. And I mentioned that I was in Kiev for those fights, and they remembered them. And the next day I came and I brought the poster, and I remember this guy and that guy, and what have you not. So, we started a nice little association, but when the movie Ocean's 11 came, I was Vladimir's cutman in the movie, and that was an honor in itself, right? But before that, he was just a big guy, both of them. And we walk into the gym and nobody knew who they were because they looked so much alike. And but yeah, got to do Ocean's 11 with them, and me and Nick Ward, I used to co-host the 13th round in Vegas, and we're hanging out watching fans walk into the MGM and for a fight, and Emmanuel Stewart comes in and he's doing his HBO telecast, and he has his tuxedo on, and he says, Stitch, I need to talk to you about Wladimir. So I asked Nick, I said, did you see what I saw? He said, yeah. So the next day he calls me and says, hey, look, man, want to know if you want to work with Wladimir. I said, yeah, of course. But Wladimir had told him, I want the guy that was my cut man in the movie. So that was my association. So my first fight was with Wladimir, was when he fought Devera Williamson here at Caesars. It was an outdoor event. And people don't know, man. I kind of give you a little bit of behind-the-scenes scoop. Okay. But he's warming up. This is my first day working with him, right? And he had just lost his world title fight to Lehman Brewster, so this was his first fight coming back. So he's in the dressing room, and he's warming up, and bam, he hits his nose, and he has a nosebleed. So I'm outside the tent. I'm watching the fights. I say, hey, Stitch, come here. We need you, man. So I had to close up the blood and all that. So that was funny. So he goes into the fight, and he's looking all right. He's not looking at his best, He got dropped in the 4th round, I think, and in the 5th round he comes back out and he gets a headbutt, and it's a deep cut, real nasty cut. And I look at it, and I'm evaluating it. Outside of just being a cut man, there's so many different options. You got to know the psychological aspect, the physical aspect, but also you got to know the scorecards. So I'm thinking, well, you know what? He has a bad cut. I know he's winning the fight. I'm gonna have the doctor stop the fight. So he comes and sits down, and Dr. Goodman comes up, and I tell Wladimir and Emmanuel, but it's loud. And I said, look, man, he has a bad cut. As I'm sitting him down, he has a bad cut. I'm gonna have the doctor stop the fight because he's winning the fight. But I don't think they comprehended. It was just so much going on. But Dr. Goodman comes in and she goes, well, what do you think, Stitch? And I opened up the cut. I said, yeah, it's pretty bad. So she knows because I've worked with her many times. And
right.
She knows I'm capable of doing those kind of cuts, you know. But that was an indication to stop the fight. And Emmanuel, no. I said, man, we got it handled, man. So they went to the scorecards. He ended up winning the fight and then ended up becoming the world champion.
Wow.
But I had told Wladimir, I said, look, man, your best chance, the way you look wasn't fantastic. Your best chance of winning that fight would have been right then and there, under that foul. You could always come back and do it, and it paid off. But the next day, Dr. Goodman called, and she goes, I just want to let you know, I called Emmanuel, and I called Wladimir, and the plastic surgeon says that it was a good thing you stopped the cut when you did, because it was real close to an optical nerve, and if you would have damaged that nerve, he would have had double vision.
Wow.
So I rolled the dice, brother, and it worked out, man. If he would have lost, man, we wouldn't be having this interview.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of that, did you know back then that he was gonna go on this run of just dominating for like a decade?
Well, yeah, he was a horse that was different color, man. Everything that he did, he was just so strong in his training. And as a matter of fact, I'll give you another behind-the-scenes story. I'm with Fabrice Tiozo. He's fighting Misoszewski in Hamburg, Germany. So we go to the weigh-ins, and Fritz Zudnik, which is Vladimir's coach and Vitaly's coach, is there. And he says, oh, yeah, Vladimir's here. Called him up, and Wladimir says, hey, man, you want to have some lunch or dinner? I said, yeah, man. So he came and picked me up at the hotel and went to a little Japanese restaurant, and we had a little private booth cottage there, and we're sitting down, and he asked me about Joe Souza. They fired Joe Souza because they were saying that Wladimir had a lot of Vaseline when he lost to Wladimir Brewster.
Oh, yeah.
And he couldn't breathe and all that. So he asked me about that, and I said, well, if you want the truth, I said, because that's the only thing I'm going to do, Wladimir, is give you the truth, is I think you fired the wrong guy for the wrong reasons. What Joe did, he's a professional, he's not there to, but I think you fired him for the wrong reasons. So it's that you got big balls, man. And then I said, if you want my opinion, because I've trained fighters, I work with kickboxers and boxers, and I've done them all, right? I said, my honest opinion, you fight too much like a Russian. You're very stiff, and you burn yourself out, man. I said, stand up. So we'd stand up. We're in a little Japanese place, just him and I, man. And I said, get in your fight position. And I went like this, and I pushed him, and he stumbled back. I said, look, man, you need a little bit of balance, brother. So he says, well, Stitch, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, shit, I'm working the fights, man. That's what I'm here for. He said, well, you want to train in the morning? I said, yeah, I'm good. So I talked to the manager at the hotel, and Wladimir Klitschko's going to come and train here. So they set up a place downstairs, and they had security there for us and all that. So doing pads with Wladimir, pop, 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 pop. I said, look, man, boom. And so that was my first, I did that with him. So he knows that I know the game. Yeah. But to have expected to have this kind of career and this kind of run with him and Vitaly, I'm never going to be able to duplicate it, man.
Wow. You talked about working the mitts with them. I know you've worked the mitts with a lot of guys, a lot of big punchers. I mean, Mike Tyson being one of them. What was it like to catch one of those right hands from Klitschko?
And you're right. And the thing that helped me is that I work with so many heavyweights, and guys that could crack. So and balance to me is a big thing. That's what I always work on, balance. I always studied the felines, and I tell guys, work your balance, because balance is power, and then you get your timing and all that. Yeah, he had hard, man. So I could absorb him, but I know that I felt it here. But just the adrenaline of being there with Wladimir and doing pads for Wladimir, to me was exciting, man. But yeah, I could take the pain, brother. Maybe not now, but then I could.
Wow. Well, do you remember, does any one moment stand out in your mind? I mean, whether it was, the heat of battle in a fight, or just even hanging out with him or anything like that. I mean, does anyone stick out more than another?
Yeah, there's a lot of great moments I've had with Wladimir and Vitaly. A lot of one-on-one type of conversations, but just the fun things we've done together. And people don't know. He got the team together. Maybe 5 years ago, and invited us all to Los Angeles, and we had a big dinner. But they made some created some rings for us. And who does championship rings anymore? This wasn't a championship ring though. This was designed by Mont Blanc. Klitschko's are a little bit different. They're designed by Mont Blanc, and they were white gold, but it was a ring. And the outside of the ring was red rubies. Oh, wow. And that represented Wladimir because he always wore red. And the inside was black onyx that represented Vitaly because he always wore black.
Nice.
And then in the center, there's a diamond because we were all stars in their eyes, right?
Oh,
and then on the outside, you have the nice engraving of the Klitschko logo going around, and then our names on the inside. So they did, stuff like that. But I think the one that really floats to the top, man, and I gotta let you know because this was my last encounter with Wladimir, and so the fight's in Wembley, 90,000 people, right? And my daughter Carla is getting married in the island of Crete, so I'm there for a week, and my daughter gets married on Wednesday. Thursday I fly out to London, and I get into my hotel, and it's the Hilton, and it's right across the street from Wembley Stadium, man. So I had a big bay window like we do here, and you just see the whole stadium. So the adrenaline was already kicking in. It's going to be a fantastic event just because of the location.
Wow.
And so I didn't see Wladimir till Friday at the weigh-ins because he was staying at a different hotel. And but I see him in the green room, and we sit there and say our hellos, Vitaly and Wladimir, and we go through our own little private conversations. But when I did the movie Ocean's 11, the cornerman jacket that I used, they both signed it and gave it to me, and I had it for years, just kind of thrown back there. So I ironed it up real good and put it in my bag. And I knew at this time psychology is important. Confidence. It's a big fight. So right at the time, I said, "Man, hold on, I got something for you." I pull it out, and boom, their eyes just lit up. Wow, that's when we first met, and we did the movie, and you still have it? Yes, wow. Yes. Put it back and all that. And so I'm talking to Wladimir. And then finally at the end, I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, "Look, Wladimir, I want to let you know, brother, that I'm going to take care of you tomorrow like you're my son." Right? Thank you. So goes to the weigh-ins, and, I go back to the hotel. They go off there, so I see him fight time, and we're in the dressing room, and then we walk out, and there's 90,000 screaming Brits, man. And 90,000 screaming Brits is like 150,000 everybody else, man. They're the best of the best when it comes to fans, but that whole night, that adrenaline, you had to be there to really talk about it, and everybody talked about it. So we're in the ring, and right before Michael Buffer does the announcements, I'm putting the final phase of Vaseline on Wladimir, and he's right here. And, actually, he's like right there. So I'm putting the Vaseline on him, and he looks at me, and in front of 90,000 people right in the center of the ring, he says, "You could call me son." Man, that gave me chills, man. But it did for a couple reasons. One, that he has a respect enough for me to call him son, but he knew that he was going to go into battle and that I was going to be there covering his back. And I did, all the way. He got cut, I think, like in the 5th round, and a big cut. And a lot of people don't realize that he got cut because it didn't bleed. But as you look at it in the interview, it's a UFC cut, man. Wow. So that's my favorite story, and then, I'm walking out of the dressing room, and I got to throw Vitaly in there also, and I'm saying goodbye to Vitaly, and Vitaly says, "Steve, I love you." He goes, "We've been together for 25 years. I've known you for many years, and you're always welcome to my house." And, it's the end of the Klitschko era. Wow. And so that was a good side and the bad side of it, but I understand I was glad to be part of it. Yeah. It's crazy, huh?
It is.
Little kid from a little town. I grew up I always go back as a farm worker, picking tomatoes and peaches and cotton one time, and now I'm working with the heavyweight champ of the world. Both of them.
Yeah. So. That could be in a book.
Go to Amazon.com. From the fields to the garden. That's my book 1 and 2, man.
Yeah, good books too. Yeah. But damn, that was a good story.
I know, it's tremendous. And the thing about it, man, is you can't buy these stories.
Right.
You got to earn them, and that's just one of many that I have with these kids. Both of them. Yeah. And to know the status of where they're at. Vitaly, the mayor of Kiev. In tough negotiations, and they're fighting and all that stuff, and for him to be in that position, soon to be president, I hope, and then Wladimir to have accomplished what he accomplished, and still to continue giving back, and they always gave back. Best people in the world, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.